everybody, and welcome back to Out of Bodies, 31 Days of Halloween. Today's video, I thought I would come on here and just give you guys a paranormal update with me. So this is like personal experiences here. This is not anybody else's story. This is not Haunted Memphis or anything like that. So I know many months ago, probably a year or two ago, probably two, I had talked about some paranormal experiences I had in my apartment back then. A lot has happened since then, but I now again live in an apartment, although it's much nicer. I really like it. I have had some experiences, and even before I moved into this apartment, there's some things I want to talk about on here. I don't think I've mentioned before, but just to preface and get started, most of you probably know, if you know much about the paranormal, and as far as people who tend to be more sensitive to, seeing things and experiencing things, children basically are much more sensitive to that, because especially when they're very young, because they haven't really built up their what's called their spiritual ego, and that kind of wall that society kind of helps you put up, and even your parents, which is not necessarily a bad thing, your parents telling you like, your dreams aren't real, and like certain things aren't real, and certain things don't exist, so you don't get scared, like that's fine. So basically, kids tend to experience a lot more things a lot more easily than adults do, because they still have that connection to the other side that they haven't let go of, or haven't built up these notions of, oh, this isn't real, and then they start to not believe in it, and then it's not real anymore, if that makes any sense. So anyway, with that being said, for those of you who aren't aware, I do have a child of my own. He's very young, and he can't even talk yet. There's some things I've experienced, and even some of my family members have noticed when being around him. And so I want to touch on that, and then I also want to talk about some experiences I've had since being in this particular apartment. So yeah, let's get right into this. So I'll start off with kind of what's been going on lately in my apartment, because I haven't been in here very long. I've been here since early April, so you guys will be seeing this in October. I'm filming in September, not that far off. But so at first I really didn't experience anything. It seemed like nothing was really going on, and I kind of needed it that way, because I was still, just kind of figuring out my life and just healing from things and sorting things out, basically. As of recently, I would say over the last month or two, things have started to happen, and nothing bad. I really feel like whatever is around here is good and has good intentions. Otherwise, I wouldn't be talking about it right now. So I'll just go into what's been going on, and then go into my theories as to maybe who it is or whatever. So basically, kind of things have been going on. Obviously, hearing things and stuff. I mean, it's a new place, so there's sounds that I'm not going to be used to, especially because I'm in an upstairs apartment, and so there's just a roof above me. So actually, that kind of is the reason why I point towards the paranormal with some of my sounds that I hear, because I don't have people above me. Because in the apartment I was in before, there were people above me, so anytime I heard a creak or footsteps or anything like that, oh, it's the people upstairs. I never even thought paranormal. But here, it's very quiet. Very quiet. I only have a neighbor against one wall. The rest of the walls are all just building. All the other walls just face the outside. I have no neighbors. It's nice. I have a neighbor below me, and I have a neighbor right over here, up against this wall. And then when this wall stops over here, the rest is just outside. So it's not so much that I've heard noises and things, but I have somehow been woken up around 3 a.m. various nights. Sometimes it's because of my son, but sometimes it's kind of unexplained, it's just a noise. And even if it is him kind of waking me up or whatever, I still think it's weird that it's always around 3 a.m. I mean, it's always 2:41 a.m. or 3:30, or somewhere in that range, somewhere between 2 and 4. Not every night or anything, but several nights over the past month, I guess. So I think that's interesting. It reminds me of when I was in that apartment that I was in before, and when I would be woken up at 3 a.m. almost every night. And back then it was because there was a particular spirit that was trying to reach me, and so I'm wondering if maybe that's what's going on, because I've been closed off for a long time, for a couple of years now, and I'm recently kind of just easing back to being a little bit open to it, but not as much, you know, just being careful. So other than that particular scenario, being woken up at night, there's been things where some of my son's toys will just go off on their own. Now, a couple of them are motion censored, but they'll go off when he's like in his room and I'm like, you know, at least 20 or 30 feet away from the toy, and it just goes off. Now, there was one time in particular that was very recently. This was like last week, I guess. And I was actually feeding, Declan is his name, my son. I was feeding him, and all of a sudden, like, we're across the room. Like, my living room is really big, because it is a one bedroom, and usually with one bedroom units, they make the living room huge, you know? So anyway, the toys are like way off over there, and we're like way over here in the corner in front of me. You know, I'm feeding him or whatever, and all of a sudden one of the toys just goes off. And not only me, but he actually looks over and just kind of stares, and I'm just like, all right. Now, other times when, especially when I'm feeding him, it seems, when he's in his high chair, you know, because I'm sensitive to energies and spirits and stuff, I can usually tell when there's a presence because I feel a really warm, vibrating sensation, usually over here. So for some reason, it's usually when I'm feeding him that all of a sudden I'll feel this presence, and it's like as soon as I feel the presence hit, he looks. It's very, very weird. But it's confirmation, because I'll be like, oh, I'm feeling something, and then like immediately, without missing a beat, he looks over in that direction of where I'm feeling it, and just kind of look up. It's almost like he's looking at a person standing there. Like, he'll actually just kind of look up and stare. He'll usually stare for like a good, it's not like he just looks and looks back. Like, he'll actually stare, and that's how I know he's looking at something. Not just because of that, but because with my son in particular, anytime he meets somebody new or somebody he hasn't seen in a while, he will stare at them. Like, that's just what he does. I always joke about it, like, are you staring again? You know, like, he will just stare at you. You know, no look on his face, no emotion, he'll just stare at you. So that's what he'll do when I feel that sensation, and then I'll be like, oh, what is that? You know, and I don't even really necessarily think paranormal yet until he looks. And then I'm like, oh God, somebody is standing there, aren't they? And he'll look, and like I said, he'll look almost kind of up, like he's looking up at an adult standing, you know, because he's in his high chair and the person standing would be taller. And he'll just kind of stare at them, like as if he's staring at somebody that just walked into the room. And then after, you know, 5 or 10 seconds, he'll just kind of, you know, and then just go about eating like everything's fine. And in the meantime, I'm feeling that sensation like I normally feel whenever I can sense that somebody's nearby. Like I said, it's kind of like a warm, tingly sensation, and, you know, it can be on either side, but when I'm sitting where I'm sitting, it's usually on this side, because it's somebody, like, the way the table and his high chair is set up, somebody, if they were walking in the room, they'd have to walk in on this side. So yeah, there's that. Again, everything feels good, nothing bad or anything, but still, I thought it was interesting to come on here and tell you guys about. Now, when he was younger, right now he's actually 15 months old. When he was younger, like 6 months old, we would actually notice him. And when I say we, I mean like me or my mom or something. I was staying with her for a while, and in her house, he would do it a lot, this particular thing. So it would be usually, I think, well, at that age we were still burping him. So, you know, when we put him on our shoulder and burp him or whatever, we would notice him just like doing this kind of thing. Like his eyes were following something and his head would follow something. And he's not a hyperactive child. He's really not. I mean, he has his moments, I guess, like any kid does, but he's pretty calm. Like, he's a pretty calm kid. And pretty content. I lied. Actually, it was younger than 6 months. I was thinking, wait a minute, wasn't he like 3? He was like 3 or 4 months when this was going on. When he was 6 months, I don't really remember this happening as much. I had in my notes 6 months, and I just looked too fast, but it's when he was under 6 months. Anyway, basically very, very young, and too young to really like, you know, be that interested in toys and looking at things, you know. I mean, babies will look around, but not like that unless they're watching something. So anyway, we would see him just kind of, you know, just like, and he'd watch something, like literally like he was watching a fly, but there were no flies. You know, like he was just watching something flying around, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's very interesting. You know, like maybe he's, who knows what he's seeing? Maybe an angel, a fairy, I don't know. So that was really neat. That would happen a lot. And then there was this particular mirror that my mom has in her house. I hope she doesn't mind me talking about this. But there was a particular mirror that she had hanging in her house. And we both talked about this, and we noticed that he would stare into that mirror a lot. And, you know, nothing negative again, but he would just kind of look up at it like he was looking. Because the thing was, he was so little and the mirror was hung like way up. And if I was sitting on the chair or on the couch and I had him on my shoulder, if he looked up at it, he couldn't see his reflection because it was too high up, if that makes sense. It wasn't like right in front of him, eye level. It was like up here, so he wouldn't see your reflection. So, but he would just look up at it. And there were other things hanging up on the wall. It's not like that was the only thing hanging up. But he would just look up at it and kind of stare at it. Kind of like, you know, when I feel that sensation, he's almost like looking at somebody walking into the room. He just kind of stare and for a minute, and then he just, you know, kind of go on his merry way. Kind of proves not my theory, but just the well-known, really it's kind of a fact, I guess you could say, in the paranormal community, is that children are much more susceptible to experiencing things and much more sensitive and in tune, I would say, with the other side, because they have not yet grown up and had their, you know, spiritual ego formed and kind of the wall put up, and they don't know anything about society yet, but they don't, you know, children are so innocent, they don't really know that certain things are supposed to be not real or real, you know, reality and not reality. They don't know any of that yet. They just, whatever they see is real. Other than that, I would say there's some things, like I feel like I've seen like orbs here and there. Like I'll see something in the corner of my eye or something, and I feel like that's probably a spirit guide or something. I think that's about it, but there are some paranormal dreams I've had, but I'm saving that for another video because I'm doing a whole video on paranormal dreams. So yeah, that's about it. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope it was entertaining or interesting to you. Obviously, if I experience anything else significant, I'll come on here and tell you guys about it. I just thought it was interesting, especially that I've experienced some things and my son has experienced some things. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your month, and I will see you in tomorrow's video for another day of 31 Days of Halloween. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.